cover their faces out of fear of retribution outside of Sing Sing Correctional Facility in Ossining. Some, we're told, went back to work Thursday after the state of New York listed names in court filings this week trying to force an end to the strike.
With all the threats the governor's office has made, with staff being served with their court orders, I understand why someone would not want to be out here.
So some people have gone back to work because of that?
Yes.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Well, what we have here is a serious issue with Kathy Hochul and everything that is going on with her, right? Everything is just not going sunshine and peaches, and it's an issue. Now, what we have is that the correctional officers are having a strike. It's been ongoing for a while now, and it's continuing to go on because Kathy Hochul's agreements or plans has not really been great. It's been awful, and they've been honestly treated very, very badly, and with massive amount of overtime that seems absolutely ludicrous in every regard, and there has been serious problems within the correctional facilities themselves, and Kathy Hochul is not being very good with that.
Day of striking even after a deal was made between the union and the State Department of Corrections.
That agreement reached late last night, but since this is an unsanctioned strike, there will not be a formal vote among union members. It's now up to each worker individually to make their own decision. We want to show you some key points in this new agreement, again, that came out late last night. Any employee that returns to work will not be disciplined for striking. The HALT Act would be suspended for 90 days, and the National Guard will continue to help with staffing levels as employees return to work.
Now, we know there are so many opinions.
So there you have it. So again, what we have here is that the big thing to take away from this is the actual HALT Act in itself. And the HALT Act was related to programming will continue to be suspended for 90 days from the date of the agreement. Now, the HALT Act has something to do with solitary confinement. And I agree that solitary confinement is very, very bad. It is not a thing that we should probably do to a lot of inmates or to what have you, because it has horrible, horrible side effects to people. Now, granted, this is okay, but the problem that we have here is that it overcorrects or over-restricts something that is rated to solitary confinement. Now, let me explain. Now, one of the reasons why that this is kind of an issue on why the whole practice with the solitary confinement was the plan was to prevent people from being pretty much in constant solitary confinement for like little or petty dumb reasons or what have you, right? That's pretty much what it was for. However, it over-restricts that. It goes way further than that onto the opposite side of the direction of this issue, and therefore it prevents officers or correctional officers to do pretty much of anything. Now, apparently, what we have here from according to Sean here, or what the emails that he's been receiving with this whole situation, is that they have been given that the solitary confinement was pretty much to take the very, very bad criminals that are more aggressive or what have you, to put them into another cell within the actual cell or prison and keep them away from criminals that were going to cause more problems, okay? That's pretty much what it is. So it wasn't necessarily solitary confinement, it was just keeping them away from other people in another cell so they just don't commit more problems. Well, the issue is that they can't do that anymore because, well, that is considered solitary confinement, which means a lot of these things have risen up. Now, what we have here is this right now, right? Well, what it is that the segregated confinement means the dissimilatory, which is what's going on here. The red is what we see that is knocked out. It says confinement of an inmate in a special housing unit or in a separate keep block housing unit. Special housing units and separate keep block units are housing units that consist of cells grouped as to provide separation from the general population and be used to house inmates confined pursuant to disciplinary procedures described in regulations. Now, the green part says any form of cell confinement for more than 17 hours a day other than in a facility emergency or for the purpose of providing medical or mental health treatment. Cell confinement that is implemented due to medical or mental health treatment shall be within a clinical area in the correctional facility or in as close proximity to a medical or mental health unit as possible. So, give or take, it's pretty much just saying like, okay, you can't put these people in this place or whatever, right? For this period of time. Now, that's okay for 17 hours a day, depending on the situation, but that's a lot of time. Now, again, what we have here, what the bigger things is this, were special populations. Now, the special populations means any person 21 years of age or younger, 55 years of age or older with a disability as defined in paragraph A of subdivision 21 of section 292 of the Executive Law, or who is pregnant in the first 8 weeks of the postpartum recovery period after giving birth or caring for a child in a correctional institution pursuant to subdivisions 2 or 3 of section 611 of this chapter. Residential rehabilitation means a separate housing unit used for therapy, treatment, and rehabilitative program of incarcerated people who have been determined to require more than 15 days of segregated confinement pursuant to department proceedings. Such units shall be therapeutic and trauma-informed and aim to address individual treatment and rehabilitation needs and unknown causes of problematic behaviors. Now, the big problem that we have here is special populations, which means 21 years off or younger or 55 years of age or older with a disability is defined in paragraph can't not be, subject to solitary confinement, which is completely insane because obviously these people need to be put in solitary confinement if they are completely dangerous or what have you, right? I mean, that kind of just makes sense. I mean, again, we don't want to use forced solitary confinement in situations where they're in one place. But from what apparently what Archer Justice Warrior says from the emails, that's not the case. It seems like a lot of the times, or half the time, or what have you, is that solitary confinement is used to put another person that's within the jail into another cell, so that way they're separated from the violent elements or whatever. That's pretty much the case here. But what we have is a bit worse than you think. So what we have is that STEC presented a hostile amendment to repeal the law on Monday, less than a week after he visited multiple upstate prisons where protesters had gathered. In the 2 years since it took effect, state prisoners have seen a 32% increase in assaults on staff, STEC said. Inmate-on-inmate assault has increased a whopping 81%. I've had inmates, including honor block inmates, tell me that they felt safer prior to Holt. So again, what we have here is that the Holt Act or the Holt proceedings, what have you, has just made things worse because they're not allowed to separate these prisoners into other cells or what have you because they had to be safe. We have to care for these prisoners. We got to care for the criminals because we got to care for them. So and due to that, it's causing other problems bad within the correctional facility. Now, this is an issue. New York City, aka Kathy Hochul, will not fix crime within her own city, but at the same time, she's also causing massive problems within the correctional facilities or jails, too. I don't know what else to tell people when how bad this woman has been doing her job. It's actually incredible in every regard. And the fact that this is ongoing is an issue. Now, again, we have other problems here, is that New York Senate shuts down attempt to repeal the whole act, and it didn't go well. It didn't work. So it's still an ongoing problem. And due to this, they're not wanting to end it. They're not wanting to get rid of it. They're not wanting to do absolutely anything for it. So this is going to be an ongoing thing. They're not going to want to remove this act at all.
12 days strong here on the picket line at Wendy. And don't get it mixed up. This might be a small crowd right now, but earlier today there were dozens and dozens of people. And this does not mean the strike is over. It actually means that they're going home to spend some time with their families. Now let's talk about that deal that was presented to them earlier today. I spent time at Attica, Wyoming, and here at Wendy, and every single one of them telling me it's just not enough. So I had to ask current and former COs why they feel that way.
Yeah, so we have a complete failure from Kathy Hochul. Now, I can understand the issue with solitary confinement, and perhaps maybe a good idea to just solve some of these issues with a lot of prisons, not just in New York City, but in general with a lot of prisons, is maybe to have other subsections or other places to where we can house violent or more dangerous inmates. Obviously, when you go down to the jail or any other type of, with any part of anything at all, you're going to have subgroups or other things that are going within that specific area. So in jail, you would have subgroups where you have very violent people and then not as violent people. And the very violent people who are more prone to violence or what have you should probably be put into other places. Now, whether or not we want to change on how solitary confinement is done or how we want to deal with on some of the issues that is going on with solitary confinement or what have you, that is up to debate and that could be just started. But however, we cannot be housing these people with 7 hours of time, 8 hours, God forbid, 8 hours of time, where they're with the same general population that are not as violent as the rest of these criminals, and then having going on. Because obviously, this is not solving any issues. The only thing that I see that is going up here is that it's causing more problems, because the problems are is that the crime or the inmates getting injured is up dramatically, quite a bit since then. So we have to solve other issues. Now, as I said before, that perhaps the best way, even though it's probably going to cost more money, is to have a subsection wing where very violent people should be put at. So instead of having these very violent people be put in solitary confinement, why not put them into another wing or another subsection of an area to where these violent people can be with themselves or what have you, to where they're not in the general population. This seems like a way better fix than having to have them put in solitary confinement where they lose their bloody minds, or where they're put in with 8 hours or 7 hours of with the general population where it's not as violent, causing other issues. I mean, this just seems a horrible, horrible thing that's been going on here. And it's funny that Democrats or these people are saying, we care about these people, we care, but in reality, all your policies, all the things that you're doing is only causing more issues and also keeping the other population that are not as violent or not as dangerous more in danger, because you want to have this emotional tug pull. This is the reason why I do not like emotional plays or emotional strings, because the emotional parts of everything that's been going on only causes more issues for everybody else involved, and it's just not good. All right, it's honestly quite terrible in every regard. And again, it's just causing where you're also having whether these people are in these jail cells, or the correctional police officers are in these jail cells, are not in the jail cells, but are in the prison for long periods of time. Now they working for 16 hours, then on top of the forced 8 hours that they have to do, so of overtime. So when it's overtime, they're working for. So when they're working there, they're working for like 16 hours. Then they have an extra 8 hours that they have to work for. That's insanity to me. Do we not know what sleep is here? Like, sleep we need in order to make better decisions and function. And unfortunately, these guys are just sitting there for an extra 8 hours for almost a full-blown 24 hours. It's insane.
There is literally nothing in there that is applicable, that was asked for, and resolves any of our issues.
A resounding no. That's the response I heard at Attica, Wyoming, and Wendy correctional facilities to whether they think the offer posed by the state will convince corrections officers to return to work.
I apologize for laughing.
The general consensus is that it was an insult, a slap in the face.
They're all unhappy.
I think this membership feels insulted by this deal.
That deal includes a 90-day suspension of the HALT Act, which limits solitary confinement, followed by a review to see if it can be safely restored. A 4-shift maximum on mandated overtime, no internal discipline for striking, however Taylor law fines still apply, and multiple chances for increased pay for working overtime, referring workers, and being excessively mandated, as long as they return by Saturday.
So yeah, it's quite terrible. Now, I feel bad for these guys, because obviously if they go out and do anything, it is a huge problem. Now, what the issue that there is that if these are retired officers going out and helping out their other friends or brothers or what have you for the strike, because they can't strike legally. Now, what Kathy Hochul has said has pretty much threatened them in this regard. They said they are in violation of the law. We have laws in our books that are supposed to protect us in these situations. Therefore, they are violating New York state law at this moment, Hochul said Tuesday morning. Hochul said he's very sympathetic to this. She's very sympathetic to the concerns of the striking workers, which you are not sympathetic whatsoever. But there is no justification to break the law in the state of New York, and they need to get back to work because they have created a dangerous situation for other correctional officers who lived up to their duty and their oaths and the law. And what we have here is where Kathy Hochul is trying to play politics here, where she's trying to make herself look like the good guy and not the bad guy. But in reality, she is the bad guy. She is the one that is holding up the whole situation, which is making everything worse in the jail cells. So no, it's not just because they're like, you're sympathetic for this. No, you want them to go back into a hell zone where it's terrible and they don't want to be there because the whole act is causing other problems. Crime or the violence has risen up 32%. And she's using her honestly, her evil nature to force these people to be in this situation and violate their violate their oaths. Like it's insane here. And is injury. She's also the one that wants to close up to 5 more prisons. Yeah, that's right. She wants to close up to 5 more prisons here, and that's insanity in its own right. Because now that when you close up to 5 more prisons, it's going to consolidate and make the other prisons that are still available more crowded, and making the other area of this place more dangerous because they're above their population limit. If they're below their actual population limit and they don't have to deal with like an overcrowded issue, you're not going to have these huge amount of problems. But of course, Kathy Hochul doesn't care about that, because obviously if she did, she wouldn't be doing this and putting these other officers in danger. She's not sympathetic. She's never been sympathetic about it, and she's using her to put these people in jail and cause other problems for them.
Many of the current and former COs I spoke with tell me this deal emphasized money more than their real concerns.
They didn't ask for more money. They asked for a safe working environment.
It's not about making more. It's about being able to safely go home and see your family.
COs tell me they have too many issues with the offer to count.
The changes to the halt that are offered are listed as temporary, and as soon as these men and women go back in and get control of the prison population and get things going back to normal, it's going to go right back the way that it is now.
Yeah, so you can feel a bit more of a sympathy with these people, because essentially they are wanting the overtime. It's like the Kathy Hochul is over there offering them more overtime pay, which is not really related to the actual pay in itself, right? It's more related to them wanting to go see their families, and I can't really blame them. Even if it's not even to go see their families, me for one, it's like I still want to have some downtime. I still want to have time to be myself and kind of recuperate a little bit. These guys do not get that. In fact, it's even worse than you think. So what it is that they would have about work 4 shifts overtime in a pay period. They can't be mandated another overtime shift that pay period. So they're mandated 4 shifts. Well, the 3 shifts is around, I guess, I give or take 24 hours. I could be wrong. 24 hours of that mandated shift. That's insane. And then they want to add another 4th shift period, which is, their next, their main thing is for their 4th shift is to be around 32 hours. That's 32 hours of paid overtime, that's not what the case is. That's not what they want. What it is that they want to go see their families. And now let's do a little bit of work here, because this is the insanity to where this is actually extremely dangerous, not for the inmates, not just for the inmates, but for the police correctional officers themselves. It's a huge problem. Now, why is this a problem? Because we have this here. If you don't sleep for 32 hours, you will likely experience significant cognitive impairment, including difficulty concentrating, impaired decision-making, slow reaction time, irritability, mood swings, increased appetite, and a potential to hallucinations. With the severity of these symptoms increasing the longer you stay awake, essentially, your body will be in a state of severe deprivation, making it difficult to function normally. So this is what they have here. It's like you're going to have a 4 shift, which is 32 hours. You're not going to be doing very well. You're not going to be able to function correct. If you're more irritable, you're going to be more irritable against people that are not listening to directions, etc., and it's going to cause other problems. And then we have this. Like, even if you have the 24-hour periods, you'll likely feel drowsy, irritable, and have trouble focusing and experience decreased coordination. Beyond 24 hours, symptoms worsen, including potential for microsleeps, brief, unintentional sleep episodes, and increased anxiety and impaired memory. So say, for instance, you're just doing your normal thing, and you're not trying to do, you're working, and you're with that 24-hour sleep period, you're quite literally just, you might accidentally fall asleep when you don't want to actually fall asleep. Like, you can't control. I understand this because I've had these situations happen to myself, where if I sing a long time, so you're gaming or whatever, or if I'm just sitting with my friends, and I'm just chilling, I'll fall asleep without me ever wanting to. This is just something that happens. So when you're out on a dangerous job such as this, and you are falling asleep, these are the things that are going to have problems with you. So when she's offering this type of deal, it's a dangerous deal. It's a terrible deal, because you're having them stay up to 32 hours, and then at that point, with their lack of sleep, they're in severe danger of all of these other problems. You cannot be having this, and this is why this is why it's such a stupid proposition in the first place.
If you voluntarily work 832 hours a year of overtime, we'll try not to mandate you for more overtime. But if you don't work 832 hours a year, we're going to mandate you to work the 832 hours a year. What kind of deal is that?
I'm told until they get an offer that emphasizes staff safety first, these strikes will continue. How much longer do you think this strike could last for?
Until Kathy Hochul opens her eyes and does the right thing.
So yeah, it's not really just about the money. It's really not. It's more along the lines of these people wanting to make sure that they're safe and want to be able to see their families. It's not an actual good deal. These people are I can feel bad for these correctional officers because they're supposed to be the ones that are protecting us and keeping us away, keeping these bad criminals away from the general population of Americans, specifically out in the actual public. They're doing their job and trying to keep us away from these people, and they're getting hosed every single way possible. It doesn't make sense. These people are not stupid, and I don't blame them for not wanting to take this deal. It's awful, and I don't understand why Kathy Hochul wanted to do this other than to be just an evil and terrible person.
So that an end is near from this strike?
No, maybe the weather will be a little warmer in a few months.
What do you think of the deal that was reached last night?
It's garbage. I think Governor Hochul should change the spelling of her last name, the first letter, from an H to a J, because she is a joke. The whole deal is garbage, and I would not go back in the jail with that deal.
I would like these elected officials put on a blue shirt, go walk around one maximum security jail for 10 minutes. I bet you they'd be running right out that front door.
So there you have it. Yeah. So what we have here is that these people are just not dumb. They're not dumb. They know where they stand. And until they get what they want, what they desire, they will not budge. And again, if they do not get what they need, or the promise, or the promise that they want, then, or the deal that they want, then they're just not going to go back. They'll be perfectly fine moving away, and as they should, because there's no reason to accept a deal that is going to cause other problems and complete mayhem within the jails and causing their threats to their lives and not wanting to see their family. And again, I'll make this a very big point. This is not about the money, but this is more about them wanting to go see their families and have time off, etc., and be safe. Right? Oh, yeah, and also probably just sleep, because to not be able to sleep for 32 hours is insane. Hell, if I don't get my actual, if I don't sleep within a good amount of time, I don't know how they could manage to not sleep for 24 hours, but if I cannot sleep with at least a time span of 14 to 15 hours, it is going to be insane. I will lose my mind because I have to have my sleep. So these people are troopers. They're better than me, at least in this case. So yeah, I can understand that this is insane. Kathy Hochul's on a rampage here, and I just don't see on how she's just going to have this being fixed without having it backstabbing her in her face. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share. As always, take care, my friends.
Burn down the city, scream at the top of your lungs till you're dizzy.